Chapter 10: Indigenous Cultures: The Survival of the Maya of Mesoamerica. 10.1 Introduction. You are traveling by bus through the highlands of Guatemala. The road winds through steep, misty mountains. It passes small mud brick houses set in fields of corn. The bus is piled high with bags, bundles, and even a crate of live chickens. Most of the passengers are Mayan Indians. The woman next to you is wearing a colorful headdress and a beautiful woven blouse called a hupol. She feeds your children corn tortillas and talks to them in a strange language. You feel like you're in another world. Suddenly, you hear a ringing sound. The woman reaches into her bag, pulls out a cell phone, and begins speaking in Spanish. You have just witnessed an example of how old and new are blending in the Mayan world. The Maya are one of the largest groups of indigenous peoples in Americas. Indigenous peoples are natives of an area who have been conquered or dominated by others who came later. Indigenous peoples often try to preserve their traditional culture, or the custom and ways of life handed down from their ancestors. The Maya still maintain much of their traditional culture, but they have also changed along with the world around them. In this chapter, you will learn how the Maya have both preserved their traditions and adapted to and changed with modern life. Right here is our essential question for this chapter. It says, how do indigenous peoples preserve their traditional culture while adapting to modern life? This illustration shows where the highland Maya live. The Mayan highlands stretch from southern Mexico, so over here, through Guatemala. Notice the photograph of a highland village. You will learn about the key features of Mayan life in a village like this one. Keep this illustration in mind as you try to answer the essential question. So just a couple of quick things to point out. Here's the Mayan village that they're saying would be in the highlands, which would be right over here. This green is representing that, which would be over here. This is your map scale. And here is your compass showing us our directions. 10.2. The geographic setting. The Maya live in an ancient cultural region known as Mesoamerica. A cultural region is an area with a distinct culture or set of similar cultures. Mesoamerica stretches from Central America to the Isthmus of Panama. This region includes hot jungle lowlands, dry plateaus, and cool mountain highlands. The Maya created an advanced civilization. About 2,000 years ago, the Maya created a remarkable civilization in Mesoamerica. They built great stone cities with towering pyramids. They created a writing system. They also developed an accurate calendar system. Around 900 CE, the Mayan civilization collapsed. Drought, warfare, and other problems led the Maya to abandon their cities. In the 1500s, Spanish soldiers arrived and conquered the Mayan region. Later, the Mayan culture region was divided among several countries. Geography isolates the Maya from modern life. Today, there are around 6 million Maya. Some live in the lowlands, especially Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, but most live in the highlands of Guatemala and the Mexican state of Chiapas. The Mayan highlands are a rugged landscape of steep mountains and deep valleys. Heavy clouds often hang over the mountains. Moisture from the clouds help produce dense cloud forests. A line of great volcanoes rises up along the southern edge of the highlands. These volcanoes have erupted many times in the past, covering the land with lava and ash. Several of these volcanoes are still active. Volcanic ash has enriched the soil in much of the highland region. As a result, the land is generally fertile and good for farming. Most Maya practice subsistence farming. That is, they farm mainly to provide food for themselves and their families. In general, they sell very little of the food they grow. The mountain geography of the highlands has helped isolate the Maya. Few roads cross the highlands. Many Maya live in remote areas miles from the nearest town. This isolation has limited contact between the Maya and the rest of the world, but it has also helped the Maya survive as a people and preserve their culture. 1. Speaking many languages. Mountains are not the only factors separating one Mayan group from another. Over time, the Maya in different areas developed their own customs and languages. More than 24 Mayan groups now live scattered across Mesoamerica. Each group speaks its own language. Each has its own special form of dress. Despite these differences, the Maya are still a single ethnic group. They share common physical features and a cultural identity. They also share the challenges of making adaptations to modern life. An adaptation is a change in which way of life to suit new conditions. Over here, the title of this picture is called Mayan Languages. And in the green, it tells you the languages that are spoken in each of these areas. And it says a mixture of languages. There are as many as 31 Mayan languages. Each is spoken in a particular part of the Mayan region. Among the most widely spoken Highland languages are, and I'm not sure, guys, how to pronounce these, so if you know better than me, feel free to correct me. Quiché, Pachico, Tatso, and Tetzla. Many Maya also speak Spanish. So if you know how to pronounce these, I would love to hear the correct pronunciation. And that is it for today's reading. Tomorrow you will hear 10.3.